Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the most overpowered Amon build in Borderlands 4 for the new Bounty Pack 2, which adds in some new bosses that are pretty strong. Now, the thing is, Amon's best builds are actually Ordnance builds, and unfortunately there's no new heavy Ordnances in the game, but that doesn't mean that we still can't shred with some of the game's weapons that are already here. As you can see, this is actually doing a pretty respectable amount of damage against this boss in Ultimate Vault Hunter 6, and the thing is, Amon is the weakest Vault Hunter, unfortunately, but that doesn't mean that he's not strong in his own right. With this setup here, you can see we actually do respectable damage, and we'll be taking out some of the new bosses in the DLC relatively quickly, and you just see that there. It's actually quite nuts what we can actually do when we end up hitting our shots, because he gets the ability to recover some of his ammunition as well. As you can see, our bullets are going down and up at the same time. So with this setup, we can do some pretty crazy stuff, and yeah, that's the boss. Not the fastest time, but we took it out in Ultimate Vault Hunter 6. And for a brief overview of the build, we'll be using both his blue and red skill trees, which can give us some pretty insane damage, and we got free reign to use a ton of different heavy ordnances, but we'll cover all that in the video. Now, if you're starting from the beginning of the game, the best choice here is Scorched Kairos. This will give us increased ordnance damage and magazine size. This matters a lot because having a bigger magazine size lets us do some pretty cool stuff, which I'll show off a bit later. Now, when we get to our augment here, the Cryonic Throom can be nice because whenever our Scorch is active, it's going to send out ordnance damage waves that deal damage to the enemy, and it's going to taunt them. If we're playing with friends, that means that we're going to be the center of damage. So we're going to take that, but we get our best skill here, Tail of the Comet. And this is actually how this build all comes together and gives us infinite ordnance. So whenever we deal ordnance damage, there's a chance to apply a cryo status that deals cryo damage over time for the duration. Tail of the Comet is affected by status effect application chance. So anything we got that increases that will make it so that we apply more statuses. I'm going to show you why that's important in a moment, but we get two options here for our next option. So Battleborn will give us increased gun damage the more full our health is, and this is doubled when we're at maximum health. One thing, we can actually apply this onto our ordnances as well, and heavy ordnances will actually get 1.5 times this amount. So it's actually kind of crazy because heavy ordnances are counted as guns and ordnances for the purposes of this. Now, Wrath of Nature is also nice, which will give us increased status effect application chance and cryo effectiveness. This is more so just to apply the Tail of the Comet, but it's not really needed. We can go with Battleborn. We could also take the Machinist here, which will be good later on whenever we're able to activate our kill skills using a certain setup, but that's not until the level cap increases. And some people like the Ancient Ways as well, but I find this just works a little better. Now next we got to progress down to the middle here. So we got a couple options. Northern Wind really isn't like anything good. We want to take the Icy Rage. This is a kill skill. Whenever we take an enemy with cryo damage from guns or status effects, we'll grant a status stack of the cryo affinity, which is going to give us a 6.25% increase in our gun damage per stack with max 5 stacks. Again, 1.5 times that's getting applied to our heavy ordnances. Eternal Winter can be nice if you want to swap things up. This will make it so that we can continually spam our Scourge skill tree, which is nice, and it'll deal additional damage. They actually buffed this up kind of recently. But once we get down here, this is our best skill, Primal Surge, because it combos with Tail of the Comet. So whenever we apply a status effect to an enemy, there's a partial chance to get our shield and ammo back. So there's a 25% chance every time that we do this, and it gives us 15% of our shield and 30% of our ammunition. This counts on our heavy ordnances, making this extremely effective because we're applying statuses often, which means we're getting our ammo back often. And one thing I do want to mention, Glacial Rapture will increase our cooldown to 60 seconds at our Forge Wall. And in all honesty, the basic Forge Wall is way better, so this will make enemies take fire damage when nearby, but the big thing is it increases the projectile damage whenever we shoot through it, and it also will give us an increased speed on those, which is really nice. So you could, in the earlier game, take the Glacial Rapture and Eternal Winter, and as soon as we get into the later game, we're going to use something a little different. One thing I also want to mention is we want to take Blackout. This gives our ordnances a chance to critically hit. We just need 1 point in here. It's all you need. It gives us a big boost to our damage. And then we're going to go into the red skill tree here, and the best choice for the first level is Heavy Plate. This will give us increased shield capacity and maximum overshield capacity, which we can get relatively easily. I like to then take 1 point into Gut Punch, so our ordnance damage and melee damage has a chance to apply weakness to enemies for a duration. And we can actually deal melee damage with our gun too, which is kind of cool, but this is just going to make it so that they have a 20% more damage taken and minus 40% damage dealt. We're also going to stack on top of this either Tritanium Knuckles, if you really want to use the mantra, which is what I was using at the start, because this increases our melee damage, which is the weapon damage that that gun deals. I think that it's better to go with Wield the Storm, which will increase our status effect damage, and we got a lot of status effects, kind of our thing as Amon. And since we're applying a lot of status effects, we want to take Bullet Storm, which is going to further increase our gun damage by 7.5 per stack when we apply statuses. So since we're applying them so often and getting our ammo back, we may as well get a gun damage boost from it too. Now we get our, this is just crazy. So Berserk, whenever we activate our forward skill, and that is Firewall, by the way, it's not this here, it's actually just Firewall, we're gonna go Berserk for duration, which will give us slow immunity and bonus cryo damage with gun and melee damage. So this is a 30% bonus damage, and bonus damage takes any of the effects, or any of the gun damage increases, so like this here will get added on top to this. And we then go ahead and take There Is Only Red. There's only 3 stacks, which is perfect, but basically what this does, when we kill an enemy when our Berserk is active, it's going to give us 4 more seconds of Berserk. It used to be 9. It was actually crazy back then. They nerfed it. It's poor Amon. This also will give us 60% more per kill for a maximum of 600% bonus damage, which is kind of insane. If you can take out a ton of enemies, and this is going to be crazy if there's future bosses that have a ton of enemies nearby, because we can just get in and go Rage, and There's Only Red, do an insane amount of extra damage, and you can do this all with our heavy ordnances. So yeah, it becomes absurd. We want to take the Calculating Cyborg, you can find it. There are a lot of really great ones. I actually did a video where I broke down the top 5 class mods for Amon, but his best are, oddly enough, his purple ones. There's Grenadier and the Cyborg. Now, I like the Cyborg particularly because it can give us rolls into endless bombardment. We don't fully need this, but grenades will have a chance to refund themselves, and so will heavy ordnances. So this can just give us some more sustain if you end up missing some shots. If you're hitting your shots, you're gonna have full sustain. This will also give us a ballistic bulwark, and this is really nice in this build because this will give us overshield when we do ordnance damage, and it's 6% of the damage dealt we get as overshield. It's actually kind of insane. That's why we wanna have that there. And you get points into Scorched Kairos, which is gonna give us increased ordnance damage as well, and magazine size. So that's really nice. You can get a variety of different rolls on this. This one has 4 Scorched Kairos and 1 Endless Bombardment. I just like this one because it also came with increased ordnance damage and crit chance on our ordnances as well. So that'd be the best roll, but we'll also want to take a Watts for Dinner for shield. This gives us a 25% bonus shock damage when our shield is full. It's kind of insanely powerful. There's a bunch of other choices you go with, like Super Soldier. This actually got nerfed. Super Soldier used to recover our heavy ordnance ammunition, but it doesn't anymore. Timekeeper's New Shield is okay if you really wanted something a little different. Cinder Shell gives us increased damage reduction. There's even the heavyweight shield, but personal preference is still the Super Soldier, and Watch for Dinner is my favorite. Actually, that's the one I also mentioned, Protein Cell. Similar, it gives us 40% shock damage, but we're less tanky that way. For our enhancement though, I really like to have the blind box with increased Jacob's ricochet by 1. That bounce pass is so nice because more ricochets, more damage. This also gives us a 25% increase to gun damage and status effect chance, which ends up being like probably the best roll possible for this because again, we want more status effects being applied and more gun damage as well. There's also ones that are going to give us an increased magazine size, which can be fun, but for our heavy ordnance, there's so many good choices. Honey Bunches is probably the best available. Disc Jockey is one of the better legendaries. And what's nice about Disc Jockey is you can actually use Disc Jockey and just shoot it off onto the ground. So it'll actually home in and find targets. So this is something that you can just like literally set and forget if you're playing with this. You can literally just go boom, and it's going to, these aren't counted as enemies, but it would find them. I also like the Atling gun. If you can find one that has no elements on it, that ends up being one of the better ones. Cryo is the second best one. The Disc Jockey is my favorite. Streamers another okay choice. Like heavy ordnances are kind of weird. There's the Thunderous Bottled Lightning you could go with here is another option. Now there was a new ordnance in the DLC with the countermeasure, and unfortunately the grenades are not amazing. So I'm just gonna throw that there. It does okay damage, but it's doesn't end up being as high as it's showing there when you go against an actual enemy. So yeah, this one it's kind of funky, but it doesn't end up being like the best roll for Amon. You can use it though. It's actually kind of a fun one to use, but I really just like to go with the Disc Jockey, or my preferences are like Litter Splitter, Honey Bunches, Rocket Socket. I really like the Rocket Socket. And here's what it looks like. It shoots really quickly and does a lot of damage. And the best part about it is you can see at the bottom right, the ammunition does not go down. The only way you lose ammo is if you end up missing your shots, but then it's funny enough, you can replenish it really easily while doing this. And just see like the damage numbers are flying through the roof here. And for our Repkit, I really like the triple bypass with increased splash damage. This gives us 3 uses. For 10 seconds, we get a 25% increase to our splash damage. It just makes a lot of sense on a build like this. You could also go with the Kill Spring too if you wanted something a little different. Now, the best ones you can roll with, I would actually like to go with 2 Gadgets Ahoy. Gives us ordnance damage 20% increase and ordnance cooldown duration reduced. It's okay to go with Gadgets ahead. I still think the best choice is 3 High Caliber and 2 Deadeye. Any gun damage increases actually applied to our heavy ordnances 1.5 times that, so really nice. Getting into weapons though, the new DLC adds a roulette, which is a good pistol, but still one of our best weapons is still going to be the Mantra. This with a Jacobs and a Ripper part, you can see it shreds enemies down. It chains around multiple enemies, it shoots really quickly, and I also got a cryo one here, which is nice for Amon. The Wombo combo is still one of the best ones for breaking down vile crystals. Golden God's kind of good too, especially if we can get one with the enhancement here that's going to give us a 100% crit chance when we're at full heat. I also have the bod. Everyone knows how good the bod is. Basically, try to get as many pellets on the enemy as possible, and it's going to deal a good amount of damage. I also like to get a Dark Beast. The Dark Beast with a Jacob's part and a shotgun underbarrel, or an elemental switcher is the best role for Dark Beast. I still think this is one of the best weapons in the game, alongside the Mantra and the bod. Those would probably be my top 3. TK's Wave is also amazing, high damage, and you can get the Torg Stickies or Torg Explosions. Chaosian's still a really good weapon as well, and even things like the Hot Slugger can be pretty effective as well. The Roulette Pistol and the Ocelot Revolver, I call it's a weird name, from the DLC are really nice too. Now, one thing that's really important for this build, if we're using the Mantra, is to take the bare arms, because this will, so the Mantra, similar to heavy ordnances, can actually double dip on this, because it's a melee weapon damage and it's gun damage increase. So if we have something that increases our gun damage, it affects the Mantra, but if we have something that, like this, bare arms, turns the gun damage increases into melee damage, now our Mantra is taking 1.5 times every gun damage increase, and with the full spectrum arsenal, our heavy ordnances are taking 1.5 times damage as well. So if you have something that adds 100% gun damage, it's now 150 for both your Mantra and our heavy ordnances. It's kind of crazy. I also like to then throw on the best defense for 30% damage dealt when our health is full, and riddle you this for 50% extra gun damage, which again is then 75% damage on both of these. Another option too to throw on is the Fragmentation Payload, which will give us increased critical hit chance and damage on our heavy ordnances. So if you don't like running the Mantra, take out bare arms and put that on. You could also take out the Bet's defense, because this ends up being really nice for our heavy ordnances. So to show it off in combat, the Mantra is actually a really powerful weapon, as you can see right there. And as long as we're able to apply statuses with it, we get infinite ammo, or close to it. That was a lot of shots. The best part about this Amon build is that exact thing. Now, this actually wasn't the best roll. We should use the cold version. If you get the Mantra can have an elemental switcher, so this is really good. And you can see there, the cold was doing a whole lot better against this boss, just because the cold this boss has got armor. It does take less damage from corrosive or radiation-based damage, but yeah, you can see not too shabby. Our heavy ordnances is going to be the answer though, because again, with heavy ordnances, you get your ammunition back because you got the tail of the comet being applied. We got all those crits happening. It is really strong. That's an Ultimate Vault Hunter sick. And putting our forge wall down is really important, because this is going to speed the projectiles, so you can literally just take the disc jockey here and shoot it at the ground. It's going to explode herself, but also sometimes hit the enemy. And the nice thing is you can actually put the forge wall anywhere, just where you're aiming at. And you can see it's actually doing a very respectable amount of damage. The more bounces it can do, the more damage it'll end up doing. But yeah, this boss is getting absolutely just teared apart in Ultimate Vault Hunter 6 here, so it is pretty crazy. So yeah, that is the most overpowered Amon build for the new DLC. And unfortunately, none of the new weapons really apply that well to Amon, so this is likely going to be one of his strongest ordnance. There's unfortunately no new heavy ordnances in this DLC. The last DLC did give us a new heavy ordnance, but it's still not really that great for Amon, so hopefully we'll get some justice next week or next month when the level cap increases. But hit that subscribe button below if you enjoyed. I hope you guys all have a great day. We'll catch you in the next one.